What's good? It's your boy Frank back with another video, and recently I've been seeing a lot of movies getting announced, comic book movies in particular, and how they're getting released and whatever case may be. I'm like, why don't we have more movies based on video games? Like, we get Assassin's Creed and a couple other movies, but they're no good. So I was thinking, what games would I like to see be produced into movies? Well, here's 5 games that I would like to see. Hope you enjoy. Here we go.
Hurt nobody. I just want to get going before she gets here. I said let him go, or I will shoot you. Fresh. I said I don't want to hurt nobody.
I remember when the first Infamous came out, and I know there was like, for a year or two, there was just rumors upon rumors that they were going to drop a movie, but it never happened. And I was like, well, that stinks. I kind of wanted to see Cole in live action. And then this game came out, and I was like, I like Cole, but I feel like Delson's power set will just make for a more interesting movie, because I feel like after an hour and a half or 2 hours of seeing electricity, everybody's going to be like, okay, like, can he do something new? Whereas Delson, he can change, like, with the snap of a finger, his power set, which is pretty cool. Another thing about this movie is, the political kind of like undertone that they could present in the movie, I should say, where it's like the DUP versus the bioterrorists or the conduits, and I feel like that's kind of present in our society, but we just need a different representation of it, so this would be good. And also the characters in this game, I really like them a lot, from Eugene, Fetch, and Hank, but most importantly his brother, because he kind of poses that opposite school of thought where bioterrorists or conduits are evil or bad, and they're not good for society. However, one thing that would be interesting to see them tackle is the choice mechanic, which was present in like all games, but I feel like when they do it, it shouldn't be like a very petty decision. It should be something grand and have an effect on the story overall, and also affect his powers, because it's interesting in the game, the more evil you are, you low-key get better powers. So I wonder if he's going to realize that himself, like, dang, the more I make bad choices or don't care about life, I get better powers, or if I stay good, my powers are more reserved. So that would just be something I wanted to see them tackle in the movie, but this is definitely the Infamous movie I would like to see.
Ow! What are you...
Try again.
Why are you doing that?
Too slow. Try again.
Cut it out!
Weak. Again. Again.
Stop it!
Again.
Honestly, how could we not want this movie? I think by the third game we were all like, yeah, there needs to be some kind of God of War movie in production or release sometime soon. And even though there are 4 main games, I think that they could probably pull the whole story of Kratos off in a trilogy, because honestly the first 2 games I feel like you can squeeze into one movie, and then this third game, it needs its own movie. I'm sorry. And then the fourth game, of course, needs its own movie. And I kind of think of it as like a Logan scenario, not with the writing, but just the story of Logan and how it kind of compares to Kratos, where he's like wild and then grows into like a father figure almost. And honestly, they need to pull influence from all the great trilogies. So the Matrix trilogies with Neo, The Godfather, and I think the main thing they should take from The Godfather not only is the writing, but the length. Don't be afraid to make a 3-hour long movie, because they weren't, and all those movies were good. And also Planet of the Apes, where the action sequences were just breathtaking. And we all know Kratos those games, those fighting scenes are dramatic, and it immerses you. And another thing is, I honestly feel like if they do these movies, they will also be doing Greek gods justice in cinema, because I've always personally wanted a movie about Greek gods where they just went ham and showed off their powers. And the only movie we got close to that was Immortals, and it was in snippets, and I was like, man, I wish they released those. So I feel like if they did a God of War movie right, they will get Greek gods right as well.
Hey. I baptize you in the name of our prophet, in the name of our founders, and the name of our Lord. In the bosom of Columbus.
I know. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yada yada yada. This game is basically a 10 out of 10, and some people feel like if they made a movie out of it, it wouldn't do it any justice. But there's one person that I feel like could direct a movie like this, and it would be Christopher Nolan. And it's only because of he did Inception, and even though their stories are completely different, it kind of they remind me of each other just because it make you think outside the box, I should say. Although there are a lot of movies recently, sci-fi movies I should say, that made me go, that was very interesting. I would have never thought of that. I feel like there hasn't been any more sci-fi movies on the same caliber as Inception that made you go, wow, what just happened? And you got to watch 2 or 3 times to actually get the full-blown story. And it was a toss-up between BioShock 1 and this, but I ultimately had to go with this one. However, the one concern that I might have if they turn this into a movie was how would they manage to get a streamlined story that people could easily follow. And there's so much goodness in this story that they will have to literally pick through and comb through so many side storylines. Like, I think one that they should keep is the Vox Populi, because it adds to like that 1912 kind of era that they're in, and the Vox Populi kind of revolt against the government. Just like I said, kind of feeds into that. And another one I guess would be the mom. I'm sorry, I'm spoiling if you haven't. But would be the storyline with the mom and how Elizabeth isn't really her daughter and how the mom handled it. I think that those 2 storylines going along with the main storyline would actually make this movie good. And if they, as long as they don't try to do too much, then we'll be fine.
If you just hold still, the fit must be precise. There. Can you see normally? Send the lens out of alignment. There. Better now? I could create more for you.
One thing I would like to say before I start is that I feel as though Dishonored is very criminally underrated and isn't talked about enough. So we should change that. But yes, I feel like this game definitely deserves a movie. Now, I feel as though the plot can be viewed as very simple, but because it's kind of like a revenge, I need to clear my name kind of story. However, what makes it a intriguing story to me, at least, is the interactions that you'll have with other characters throughout the story. And one of those characters is Sam, the boat driver, who actually takes you on the missions. And he kind of like challenges Corvo's moral compass. He's like, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure that this is the right thing to do? Maybe you shouldn't handle it that way. And I think that that's what could make or break this movie, in my opinion, because if they make this movie, it could easily be another Assassin's Creed or Hitman Agent 47, where we don't care about what the characters are talking about, but as soon as the action comes on, our eyes get wide and the action leaves and then we're like, I don't care anymore. So that's why I think they need to handle the conversations and the interactions that you have with other characters throughout the game very delicately to make it a very good story. And one thing I think is very important is the choice factor that is presented in this game, and not choice in morals, but like choice in gameplay. So you can either go guns blazing or play stealthy, and I think that a way they could portray that in the movie is by stealing from the Sherlock Holmes movies they did with Robert Downey Jr., where he kind of has like this internal conversation with himself, and he kind of goes through all the possibilities of what can happen when somebody does something. So I think that if they could get the story correct and make it interesting enough to where we get into the mind of the assassin, this movie could be really good.
The mighty gods of Earthrealm.
Let's just be honest with ourselves here. Anything that's MK related in live action has been pretty much doo-doo. I mean, the 90s movies, although they hold some nostalgia value, they're still trash movies. The web series is subpar. I'll do like one episode, the Sector and Cyrax episode, but other than that, it was pretty to me, and I think that MKX can definitely solve that problem. Reason being, like, number one, it expands the MK universe. Yeah, we get the classic Earthrealm versus Outworld kind of scenario, but we also get to see the things that are happening within each respective realm. We get to see the politics at play with the Empress and the with Melina and all those other people trying to get the throne, and we also get to see what's going on in the Earthrealm, how they're dealing with the Outworld politics. And I think that that's what we need. The classic cardboard cutout stories we've been getting in the other Mortal Kombat things they just don't work. They also found a way to introduce very interesting characters like Aaron Black, Kotal Khan, and even Johnny Cage's daughter and Jax's daughter. They made you really like those characters and wonder what they were doing throughout the story, even if they weren't on screen. And they also did that by showing love to the OG characters. I mean, Scorpion was a brand new, he was mature, so was Sub-Zero, and we just got to see how everybody changed over time. And I think that the new movie that's in early stage of production, from what I hear, they should definitely take the majority of their influence from this story, because this is probably the best MK story out now. Alright guys, that's all for this video, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know in the comment section below what video games would you like to see turn to the movies. Did I miss any? Would you change any on my list? And also follow me on Twitch, because I do stream now, and I definitely plan on streaming that new Spider-Man when it drops. So thanks for watching, and I'm out.